This is Best Ball Study Hall. I'm your host, Jeremiah Retzlaff. You can find me on X at Coach Retzlaff1. I want to start off with Best Bowl Mania. We have the college game that has dropped on Underdog. Now, before you say, hey, I'm not interested in this, I just want some NFL, part of what you need to do to understand your rookies for next year is learn the names. Just learning the names of players can help you so much. That way, when you're taking in podcasts in January, talking about rookies, talking about the Senior Bowl hype, you can understand and pick up and understand what names are being talked about, what teams they're associated with, what position the player was even tied to. So this really helps. Granted, on Saturdays, you should be watching as much college football as you can, just getting to know and understand the talent. We have metrics that we always like to measure, but you like to have some eye test out there and to see and get a feel for the game. So the team that I have so far, I have quarterback Kyron Drones. My running back is Gavin Sawchuk. My receivers are Teteroa McMillian and Kevin Concepcion from NC State. So I have a 1-1-2 build. I'm at the wraparound pick. I have a couple players in my queue. I have Cam Ward here and Brant Kuthi. I might be saying the name wrong. And again, I'm just trying to understand the names. What I've basically been doing is sleuthing different names at price points from sharper people on X. And then, of course, I'm in the Destination Devi Discord talking to my fellow Discord members and trying to find out, hey, what players are good at this board at this time and who should I be selecting? So they help steer me towards Kyron Drones in this instance. This is a super flex contest. There's two running backs, there's two receivers. So we don't want to go hard on receiver so much. We still want to have our structural alignment. So I'm still going to apply some of the super flex principles in the underdog contest that I would to the NFL. Just in here, I'm trying to find different value pockets. And of course, I understand I'm out of my depth, but I understand I'm learning names as I go. And what's going to be really cool, whether I do just this one contest, this one entry, or I do a handful or several, I can follow this team and track and have fun like it's my own little fantasy team for college for best ball. And then I'll understand some of the arcs even better and be more fluent when it comes to draft time next year. So that's my team so far. Again, I'm learning the players. I may not even have all their names correct. And that's just part of how you get fluent is you dive in and you jump in. Now let's go over to the best ball study hall drafts that we're used to. I titled this one Throw Me a Spear. So my team is a 1-2-4-2 build. I have quarterback Jalen Hurts, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Ramondre Stevenson. I really like the idea of getting Ramondre Stevenson in that pocket where there's a whole lot of running backs available. And he's just another good click that I've been trying to incorporate. With Jalen Hurts, I have A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley, can't stop, won't stop clicking him, and then DeAndre Hopkins. So I have Ridley, Hopkins. Of course, I'm setting up for some Titans exposure with Will Levis later. It's there if I want it. Cortland Sutton is my fourth receiver. Cortland Sutton is going to make or break so many teams, whether you're front loading your running backs, whether you're trying to go heavy at receiver and still tack on Cortland Sutton. There's just many ways that you can play getting Cortland Sutton. Mostly I've seen Sutton on teams where somebody has gotten too far ahead with the running back allocation and they need to bail out and recover at receiver. Cortland Sutton is one of those players. If he goes off, he will bail out some of those heavy running back early drafters. And of course, my tight ends are Sam Laporta and David Njoku. I was at the turn and I wanted to save this pick. I was at the turn and I want to make sure I had this pick available for the show. So I have David Njoku. He's my second tight end with Sam Laporta. On Best Ball Night School, we had James Brimacombe, better known as Eagles on X, and he talked to me about wanting to get more David Njoku, that David Njoku was such a good click for these tight end builds where you want to get an elite guy. He feels that Njoku is just a perfect second tight end to go along with the elite tight ends. And of course, I have Sam Laporta. So I titled this draft, Throw Me a Spear. I want to select Tajay Spears, but my mindset, my thought is towards Gus Edwards as well. I like the idea of Gus Edwards being the guy who just gets touchdown equity gets a heavy amount of carries, more than we may expect. Everybody wants it to be Kamani Vidal season. I trust that Gus Edwards will be healthy enough in time for camp. And if he's healthy enough in time for camp, he's going to have the endurance to run the race throughout the entire season. So I'm not worried about this injury that's out there for Gus Edwards. We would love wheels up for Kamani Vidal, but I feel like it's going to be a splitting and splicing between Dobbins, Edwards, and Vidal. But I do want to have some humility where I normally I'm the archetype of drafter to just go, hey, let's get Kamani Vidal season wheels up. But I have to back test some of that. And the more I click Gus Edwards, the better I feel. Now, in this instance, though, since I have some Ridley and Hopkins, and I outright do player take like Tajay Spears even more, the upside, despite Tony Pollard being there, I am going to go with some Tajay Spears over Gus Edwards. So I click Tajay Spears. So again, my team is a 1-3-4-2 build now. I have Jalen Hurts, Jahmyr Gibbs, Ramondre Stevenson, Tajay Spears, and then A.J. Brown is there with Jalen Hurts. I have Ridley and Hopkins. So I'm setting up Spears, Ridley, Hopkins for some Will Levis later. Cortland Sutton there, again, he's that hell out wide receiver. There's going to be a lot riding on him in best ball. You'll see people's reactions based on how Cortland Sutton does this year. If he's tearing it up, there's going to be a lot of hooting and hollering on X by people who were in on him. I have tried to incorporate some clicks on Cortland Sutton. I am not a believer that all of a sudden Cortland Sutton will break out, but I think he could pay off at his ADP. So I've come around enough to click Cortland Sutton somewhat, a little bit more than zero, right, in drafts. And my tight ends here, Sam Laporta and David Njoku. Let's go to another draft. And I titled this one, The Hound Dog 2 Likely Bet. So I have a 2-5-7-1 build. My two quarterbacks are Kyler Murray, Jared Goff. I love that pairing. It's a money zone pocket for quarterback there where you're not paying up elite, but you're in this mid-tier spot where you can scoop up quarterbacks in excellent offenses. I love the Arizona Cardinals this year. Kyler Murray, to me, is a top 5 quarterback. Jared Goff is in just one of the most efficient offenses in the league. So we hear the opposite end of too many mouths to feed would be a rising tide lifts all boats. Jared Goff is going to be a player who benefits from that at the quarterback position. It's a reflexive thing. If we're in on every weapon out there in Detroit or near every weapon, then somebody's going to have to benefit. If the guy facilitating it is Jared Goff, then it's wheels up for Jared Goff this year too. So I think he's a sneaky play. Running back, I have Rashad White, Najee Harris, Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis. I've been thinking about this concept of running back rooms where you have advanced rate players and then you have stylistic players. So an advanced rate player might be somebody who can do things early in the year, but maybe not carry through the entire season. So a good example of this is most recently with Jonathan Brooks going on the NFI list. I'm thinking Chuba Hubbard will be an early season guy. He can be the advanced rate player where the early pocket of the season where you need to accumulate points and build up your Jenga stack before things all topple over. You want to have a back like Chuba Hubbard who can get you to the spot where you can advance to the playoffs. And then, of course, Jonathan Brooks is a player who has tournament winning upside, but he could be later on in the season where Jonathan Brooks pays off. Now, the other angle that I've been looking at running back rooms is my archetypes. Do I have the between the gaps kind of players or the players who will get early and longer season usage throughout the entire season, whereas I have a couple other players who could come along as things go. So this running back room right here with Rashad White and Najee Harris, they are two players who will likely endure for the entire season. They're not just advanced rate players, but they're the type of guys who can fill up my RB1 and RB2 spot right from the jump. And I'm not taking zeros immediately. With Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis, those are 3 running backs who I could most likely be having to just wait and wait and wait. And if I have too many of the archetype of the Trey Bensons, Marshawn Lloyds, take Blake Corum out there as well, Ray Davis, guys who aren't guaranteed immediate work share, then I could just be sitting on way too many zeros. So I like this blend of the safer running backs combined with these upside guys. running back that I had in a previous draft was Ramondre Stevenson, somebody who I've been trying to safely incorporate some clicks for. Ramondre Stevenson is a perfect player to pair with somebody like a Trey Benson or Marshawn Lloyd, because Ramondre Stevenson will fill up your RB1 or RB2 spot early. And then by the time Benson and Lloyd come around, that upside can manifest later to where you're still not too far behind of other teams. Because we have to remember the score tallies from week one onward. So those early weeks can just be as important. You can't be there if you don't get there. So I've been trying to develop mature running back rooms where there's some different layerings, where I have archetypes of players who can be bell cows, high upside players who can take that 40% role, and have that nice mix and blend of the seasonal angle as well, where it's how will they endure early, middle to late pockets of the season. A player who I feel like is a good 40% player is Jaleel the Steel McLaughlin in round 14. But I don't think Jaleel McLaughlin getting an entire workload is even in the cards. And even if he were to get the full workload, I don't think he would pay off like other backs who get a full workload. I think of Tony Pollard, I think of Chase Brown, Jalen Warren, and Jaleel McLaughlin. They're players that we wish cast can take on the full workload, but likely their perfect price point and playing point is at that 40% level. And then they're capped right there. If they go beyond, they have risk of injury and a loss of efficiency. So that's just what's going on in my brain. So let me just rehash this team. I got off on the tangent at the running back position. I have Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, running backs Rashad White, Najee Harris, Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis. My receivers with Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp. Love Cooper Kupp off of Kyler Murray for week 17. There's Calvin Ridley as my fourth receiver. I'm pumped about that. Rashid Shaheed, I drafted him in the Scott Fish Bowl. Demario Douglas, we've hyped him up plenty. Michael Wilson, just another piece with Kyler Murray. And there I have Trey McBride. Now, I spoke with James Brimacombe and Ed DeLauder on Best Ball Night School. We talked about Isaiah Likely, some exotic, different builds, and we talked about Mandrews and Likely in a build. I have done that in less than a handful of drafts, and we talked about the idea of just that's a way to differentiate. Another tangent that I've been on is Isaiah Likely. I really think Lamar Jackson can support two top 12 tight ends. So if my belief in that Tom Monken offense where Isaiah Likely, the toothpaste is out of the tube and you don't want to go back, I really need to be drafting. If I talk the talk, I need to walk the walk, back it up. Isaiah Likely is somebody that I feel can be a top 12 tight end just with Mark Andrews. Now take Mark Andrews out of the equation, and then we're likely in that top 6 range of outcomes for the tight end position. So I am going to click here on Isaiah Likely, and there'll be puns for days on him. To recap this team, 2, 5, 7, 2 so far. We're here in the 16th round. Kyler and Goff, Rashad White, Najee Harris, Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, Ray Davis are there in the running back room. I like the idea of Kyler Murray being able to pass to Trey Benson. That would be some cool, neat, differentiated fireworks there. Wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, Rashid Shaheed, Demario Douglas, Michael Wilson. I have my stud tight end in Trey McBride and a top 12 tight end. Book it, right? Isaiah Likely. I click it, I say it, I speak it, I believe it, and I back up what I say. If I'm wrong, I'll wear the L, but I also have to do what I say and advocate for, if that makes sense. So let's go to the golden. Remember, the golden, you have to be golden. You have to just run pure and be number one. There's 2760 off the top of my memory contestants. So we're talking about sub 3,000 people. You have to picture yourself. Can you defeat all those people in a big tournament? You've probably done that, and you have done that if you've played in enough of these contests. It just seems so enormous now, isolated to one contest. So let's read off this team, a 1-3-6-2 team. And I have Josh Allen, Devon Achane, Samir White, Tajay Spears. So I have at the receiver position, Amon-Ra, Calvin Ridley, D-Hop, All right, I love these Tennessee Titans offense. Khalil Shakir, there he is with Josh Allen. Jerry Jeudy, I've been trying to incorporate clicks for Jerry Jeudy. I really like the idea of Jerry Jeudy paying off at this ADP. Here he is, pick 127. He's not breaking the bank. He's not necessarily an end of your draft player, but he's affordable enough that I think you should consider having a smattering of Jerry Jeudy in your lineups. He's got that beautiful game against the Miami Dolphins in week 17. Then we have Gabe Davis as my 6th wide receiver. Don't love Gabe Davis, but we love what he can do in best ball. Dalton Kincaid, do we think he can be tight end 1 overall? Well, if he is, I've got him there with Josh Allen. Then I have Evan Ingram, who goes off of my Tennessee Titans players. So then in this situation, I was talking about advanced rate players and tournament winning running backs and archetype of players with Devon Achane, Zamir White, Tajay Spears. I look at Achane being, he's my bet at 18 overall, whether I'm getting Achane in the 2nd round or the 3rd round. Achane is a player that I'm betting on to endure the entire time, whether he's got the archetype of 40% usage or not. He is hyper efficient, and I do believe that Achane, if given a little bit more of a workload, can endure and can hold up. Granted, there is a health concern there. Zamir White is a perfect prime player that can fill up my lineups in those early weeks where you don't fall behind too much in my running back room. And then Tajay Spears, I love from the jump. So then my conundrum, predicament, or theme of how I've been drafting lately, I've got Jaleel McLaughlin and Jalen Wright. With Jalen Wright, I would pair with Devon Achane, something I talked to with Ed DeLauder and James Brimacombe on Best Ball Night School. We talked about doubling up running back rooms. So I have been doing that a little bit, and Jalen Wright, and it would be the perfect spot right here. Then, of course, Jaleel McLaughlin is topical to what's going on X today. Everybody's talking about the Denver backfield. I really like me some Jaleel McLaughlin. I think it's Debro who talked about Jaleel McLaughlin being Devon Achane light. So in this instance, in another instance, I'll click Jalen Wright in the future to double up on some Miami. And I am going to click on Jaleel McLaughlin as a player who can come in, be that 40% archetype to have some spike weeks, Achane, Zamir White, and hopefully Tajay Spears carry me through the whole way. Here I have in this golden 1-4-6-2 to summarize the team again. Josh Allen, Achane, Zamir White, Tajay Spears, Jaleel McLaughlin. And then I have Ross St. Brown, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Khalil Shakir, Jerry Jeudy, Gabe Davis. My 2 tight ends are Dalton Kincaid and Evan Ingram. I do have to take a look at that week 12 bye. I'm not so worried between Kincaid and Evan Ingram having the same bye week. As a fact is, I feel like tight end, I can lay a 0 1 week and make up versus quarterback. I really don't like the idea of taking a 0 at quarterback with how much quarterbacks go off in all these contests on any given week. Let's do one more draft and then we'll get out of here. I titled this one Arrested Development, maybe this time. My layout here for my team build is 2-4-3-2. So I am behind on wide receiver. But here I am. My quarterbacks are Hurts and Prescott. So there's that week 17 matchup. We love it. My running backs, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, Marshawn Lloyd. Oh, there we go. We've talked about doubling up on running backs for certain builds from certain teams. This is another draft that we went over on Best Ball Night School. And James Brimacombe, Eagles on X, talked about, hey, let's go for Tony Pollard, where we were at pick point. Let's go for Tony Pollard and see if Tajay Spears can fall back to you. Tony Pollard did fall, or we made the selection with Tony Pollard. Spears fell back. And then he even said to me, James, he said, well, now go and get Marshawn Lloyd. So James, and I'll hit you up on X too. I went and got Marshawn Lloyd. So I have the Packers and the Titans backfield for my first 4 running backs. So to go along, receivers, A.J. Brown, there he is with Jalen Hurts, Drake London, Rome Odunze. Then I have Sam Laporta and Jake Ferguson. I've got an elite in Sam Laporta. And then Jake Ferguson, he always gets better wherever he is year over year. So maybe he makes a jump. And then I have Jake Ferguson with Dak Prescott. So now where I'm talking about the Arrested Development mean, and I'm just saying, hey, maybe this time it can work for us, is the fact that I am going to click on some Jahan Dotson. It's between Dotson and Polk. Polk just seems like a player who could just get easy target share in an offense that many people aren't on. I love the Commanders' offense this year. I don't love Jahan Dotson, but from a process play standpoint, and I'm trying to play catch up at this receiver position, from a process standpoint, with Jahan Dotson, they play the Philadelphia Eagles week 16. So if I can get any kind of differentiation, and this would be major differentiation, Jahan Dotson going off and advancing me to the finals would be just incredible. Very few people are likely to have Jahan Dotson. So it's gross. It doesn't feel right. But at the same time, I have to follow and honor some of the process that we lay out in our best ball, just our patterns, things that we want to go towards when we talk about correlation. This is strictly a correlation play. It's a hopium pick. It really is. And I'm sitting here telling you today, I don't necessarily think it will pull off my conviction meter, but as far as process play, I can see how it can set up to play out. And you just don't know. All of this is out of our control until the games get played. So let me review this team, and then we'll be on our way. 2-4-4-2, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott. By running back room, it's Packers and Titans. Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, Marshawn Lloyd. Something different. Wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Drake London, Roma Dunze, Jahan Dotson. Ew, gross, but there's correlation there, we hope. And then Sam Laporta and Jake Ferguson are my two tight ends. Love the tight end room. I've had a lot of fun, and I appreciate all of you tuning in. Please give me a like, a subscribe, and leave a rating review, just a comment. I'm at Coach Retzlaff1 on X. This has been Best Ball Study Hall. I will see you next week.